Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Last night we completed Surah Yusuf, and I want to just focus on one verse in Surah Yusuf in which Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam is telling his sons, his 10 sons, to go to Egypt, and this was to get provisions. But when they are going, he's advising them, Ya bunayya, ya baniya la tadkhulu min babin wahid wadkhulu min abwabin mutafarriqa. O my sons, when you go to Egypt, and apparently historically there were 4 main gates of Egypt at that time. So the father said that when you go to these gates, all of you should not enter into one gate at the same time, rather enter into different gates at separate times. Now the scholars have mentioned 2 possible reasons for this. One reason was that if the military of the palace had seen 10 men that were fully grown and looking very strong, as mentioned in another verse of the Quran, وَاذْكُرْ عِبَادَنَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ أُولِي الْأَيْدِي وَالْأَبْصَارِ. They were people with hands, meaning strength, and absar, with a vision, meaning you could either look at them and see that they were beautiful, or they had good vision themselves. So when this military of the palace would see those people coming all in a group, they might have regarded them as a security threat. So this was one reason, possible reason. The other reason, which is the most chosen by Mufassirin, is that Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam wanted to prevent the sons from being afflicted with jealousy and the evil eye. So if all of them went into the gate at one time, remember whose brothers were they? Ultimately, they were the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, who was known for his beauty. So obviously there had to be some semblance of beauty within them too, handsomeness within them too, that prompted Yaqub alayhi salam to tell his sons to make sure not to enter at one time into the gate, rather enter at different times and at different gates. So Yaqub alayhi salam told them for this reason, so that these handsome men could not be afflicted with the evil eye. So I'd like to make a few points about what the evil eye is. Some people just brush this off as superstition. The reality is that the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in a hadith, إِنَّ الْعَيْنَ حَقٌّ. Indeed, Ayn is the truth. Now, even though we might not understand how it works completely, but the reality is the Prophet ﷺ told us about it. And it does happen. According to another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ الْعَيْنَ لَتُدْخِلُ الرَّجُلَ الْقَبْرَ وَالْجَمَلَ الْقِدْرَ. Ayn is something that even can push a person into the grave. Meaning when somebody is afflicted by it, it can push him into the grave, and the camel into the pot. Meaning the camel, it might become to the point where it's useless to the owner, and the only useful thing that can be done with that camel is to slaughter it and cook it. So Ayn does that. And there are a couple of stories that I like to mention. It's mentioned that a person called Abu Sahl ibn Hanif, he was about to take a ghusl, a shower. In those days, obviously, there was no shower, so using a bucket or whatever means, he was bathing himself. And in order to bathe himself, he took off his outer clothing, and he was a very handsome man with light and soft skin. And another Sahabi, his name was Amir ibn Rabi'a, he was looking at him, and he started praising the beauty and the softness and the light texture of his skin. And immediately that person became sick, extremely sick. And then he took this issue to the Prophet ﷺ and told him what Amir ibn Rabi'ah had said. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Ala barrakt, why didn't you make the breek? And I'll mention what the breek is in a minute. But he told him that Amir ibn Rabi'ah should make wudu, or according to another riwayah, he should bathe himself, and the water that comes off from his body, that should be taken and sprinkled over the other Sahabi, who was Sahl ibn Hanif. And this was what was done, and Sahl ibn Hanif became well immediately after this prescription was put into place. There's another riwayah that Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, he was riding his horse or camel, and one of the women in that area, she said, Inna amirakum hadha la ya'lamu annahu ahdamul kashhain. This Amir of yours, he knows that he has very strong flanks, meaning his broad shoulders, he's muscular. And this person, Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, he went back home and he basically was bedridden. And then when the Prophet ﷺ inquired what happened, so he told him that this woman, she's praised me, and since that time I've been bedridden. So the Prophet ﷺ sent for the woman. She came and she was ordered to make wudu, and the same thing was done, and the water was sprinkled over him and he became well again. So this is basically one of the prescriptions of Ain, and how to prevent Ain from actually happening. The Prophet ﷺ, he instructed people to make what's known as tabrik. Tabrik means when you see something, you say Barakallahu feek, Tabarakallahu ahsanul khaliqeen, and Barakallahu feek, Allahumma barik fi, using the words of barakah and giving dua for the person. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you barakah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give this person barakah, and so on and so forth. Now, more popular than this is the contention or notion that we have that whenever we see something, we should say, MashaAllah. And this is derived from the story of the people that had two gardens in Surah Al-Kahf. When the person who had the smaller of the gardens, he said to the person who had the massive garden, وَلَوْلَا إِذْ دَخَلْتَ جَنَّتَكَ قُلْتَ مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. When you enter into your garden, why don't you say مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ? So this can also be said, but specifically the Prophet ﷺ, when he was giving the prescription for Ain, he used to say that you should do tabrik, meaning Tabarakallahu ahsanul khaliqeen, or Allahumma barik fi. And there was another dua that the Prophet ﷺ used to teach the Sahaba, and that was something that was taught even to Hassan and Hussein. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامة من كل شيطان مهامة ومن كل عين لامة. So this was the dua, and apparently according to the riwayat, the Sahaba used to perform this dua until the Mu'awwadhatayn was revealed. Mu'awwadhatayn, which is the last two surahs of the Quran, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ and قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. And once those surahs were revealed, then after that people practiced them instead of this dua. Well, we can combine between both of these duas and Mu'awwadhatayn. This is something that Mu'awwadhatayn is something that we should make a habit of as much as possible. And this is actually the second prescription for the cure of Ain too. So say for example, you feel that you may have been afflicted with Ain. And this happens so much with kids, for example. You go to some function and the kids come home and all of a sudden they break out into a rash, or they develop a fever, or they just are crying uncontrollably all night. So these are indications that there's a possibility that that child may have been afflicted with Ain. So in this situation, you don't know who the person was, from whom that Ain came, so you do Ruqya in this case. And the Ruqya is Mu'awwadhatayn, the last two surahs of the Quran, or the last verse of Suratul Qalam. Okay, so this is what is the وَإِنْ يَكَادُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَيُزْلِقُونَكَ بِأَبْصَارِهِمْ لَمَّا سَمِعُوا الذِّكْرَ وَيَقُولُونَ إِنَّهُ لَمَجْنُونَ. So a person should recite this and blow it over himself, blow it over his children, and this inshallah will be a means of curing oneself from the Ain that has taken place. So again, to summarize, Ain is true, it does happen. To prevent that from happening, whenever we see something, we should give dua for barakah by saying Tabarakallahu ahsanul khaliqeen, Allahumma barik fi. And if not, if we don't remember that, at least to say MashaAllah, to attribute the goodness or the beauty of that thing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the prevention of Ain. If a person gets afflicted with the Ain and you know who that Ain is coming from, then make that person make wudu, and the water that comes from that person's body, it should be taken and sprinkled over the victim of the Ain. And if you do not know, then the third way is to use Ruqya by Mu'awwadhatayn and the last ayah of Surah Al-Qalam. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us tawfiq to understand and practice what has been said and heard. Jazakumullahu khairan.